You are now tuned into the U. Hit me! What up? What is the good word? This is Htheman. You are now locked into Real Talk Sports live and direct from the Hummingbird. Look, we've had not that much news, very lukewarm, but all the same, I got a report on my Philadelphia Eagles. You already know what time it is, so we're going to get right to it. So this week, we went ahead and signed Tyler Hall, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Hall is a player who has pretty much been a depth piece for quite some time throughout the league. He came into the league in 2020, actually, as a free agent. He went undrafted out of Wyoming, had stops at LA, where he won a Super Bowl with the Rams as a PR player. He was injured in camp and ultimately waived at the end of that season. And then he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders the following year after the Rams had won the Super Bowl in 2021. So he's a player that understands what it takes to stay on rosters. And as I know, and all Philadelphia Eagles fans know, Howie Roseman loves to hold on to those type of players. You think about guys like Greg Ward, who's been around the block, but has stayed with Philadelphia throughout his career. Also, Boston Scott, another name that has continuously found ways to stay on the roster for several years until, unfortunately, this season he is no longer on the roster. Hall has played about 78% of his career snaps on special teams. I just want to go ahead and show you guys a little bit about him. This was against the New England Patriots. As a matter of fact, when he played for the Raiders, he was on a streak of having a lot of great games right around here. So 4 weeks of consecutive terrific play from him. And we're going to just go ahead and dive into it. What he brings is a depth piece. If you take a look here closer into the stats via PFF, you'll see that he was a second rated player right under Max Crosby. Right there, as you can see, right, he had a 78.4 grade leading up to that game against the Patriots. Played about 250 special team snaps. I had my tongue in a twister right there. And last season was able to amass about 20 tackles. And we're always going to try to look for guys who can be versatile at the position, whether it be a defensive back or a returner. A lot of things that we can get from him. He's going to be a camp body. He's automatically going to push for a lot of competition in that spot. And I think for him right now, he just needs to find a role, right? So if you can get him in early, get him to buy into what we're doing, especially on special teams, I think he'll make a huge impact. And also a guy that could come in and be a veteran for the guy. Like I said, Super Bowl champion. Even though he didn't play any snaps on that team, he did earn the ring throughout camp and then played a couple of games for the Rams as an active player. In his career, only 31 starts so far in his career. So this is a player, again, that has done a lot of good things for himself, been able to stay around the league in 5 years, 3 years active, but a 5-year NFL veteran. He's a core special team player, much like Oren Burks, who we signed away from the San Francisco 49ers to come in and play special teams for us as well. So he's a player that I'm really, really excited about just because of the fact that we're going to have another body here to battle out throughout camp and just give a guy a challenge. You know, we talk about the defensive back room and what we have in it right now. You take a look at Darius Slay, James Bradbury. So far, James Bradbury has not been moved. I'm anticipating him getting moved prior to the season, maybe around the draft or just a little after. But we're very, very young in the secondary, and this is something that Harry Roseman has expressed that he wanted to do. He wanted to get younger at the position. So we got Eli Rich, Mario Goodrich, Mekhi Garner, Josh Jobe, and Zeke McPherson. All of these guys have played just about under 3 years or under. And this is what I'm really excited about. Another depth piece, a veteran guy who understands what it takes to stay around and be in the league. Not sure if anyone out there knows, but the NFL veteran yearly, when talking about longevity, yearly longevity is about 3 years. So this guy has definitely stood the test of time and has provided a lot of quality depth for places that he has been to. His best season as a pro definitely came last season with the Raiders when he had opportunity to play. And I could see him coming in again and providing us with that much needed depth that we're going to need at the position. You could never be too short when it comes to having defensive backs. And take a look at him here, right? When you're trying to make that move, he was the guy again, right there, making a play in the backfield. A guy who's a scrapper, who understands what it takes to stay on a roster even as a special teams guy or just coming in on a rotational basis in Vic Fangio's system. If he can pick it up quickly, I think this is going to be a huge signing for us. Once again, went ahead and signed Tyler Hall from the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to let you guys just look at the chalk talk here. I just look at how he plays. Very instinctive for a guy who was not drafted at all coming into the NFL in 2020. Was picked up by the Atlanta Falcons, ultimately staying there as a practice roster player, then goes to LA, makes the team as a PR guy, played a little bit, played some, was activated and then deactivated, and ended up ultimately winning a Super Bowl and then going to the Raiders, and then again now this year with us in Philadelphia. See how he just squeezes, he gets skinny, makes a play right in the gap, pulls down the running back, no touchdown for the Patriots that game. So you got to really appreciate his level of play, appreciate what he's been able to do, and that's Tyler Hall. In other news, we went ahead and signed Paris Campbell. This is huge for us because we were looking for a guy to replace Boston Scott, and I think that Campbell, what he provides, again, much like Tyler Hall, is that veteran leadership, right? So he's going to come in. Nick Sirianni is very, very familiar with him. When he was drafted to go to Indianapolis, Nick Sirianni was the offensive coordinator at the time in Indy under Frank Reich. So I believe this is a huge move for us. Just again, securing depth for us going into the season, and just providing the team with some balance, right, at the depth receiver depth position where we're going to need him either at a WR3 or a WR4. I think right now what we're focused on is filling a hole here that was left open by Boston Scott's departure. And now we have, again, Paris Campbell, who ran a 4.3 speed coming out of the draft, and it's on his pro day at the combine. What people liked about him is the versatility as a returner, as a wide receiver. Had his best year as a pro in 2022, his last year with Indy, just before he signed with the Giants a year ago. And things didn't go as well as it did. He was supposed to be a continuing ascending player, but things didn't go as well as it did in Indy when he arrived over to New York. But again, a player who can fill a hole immediately and probably give us his best as a special teams guy, a core special teams guy. And we're looking for someone to replace Zach Pascal in the running game, right? So I think that's something, too, for us to look forward to. But again, Paris Campbell signed. He has 3 career touchdowns as a wide receiver. And you can see him making one of those touchdown plays right there, getting that ball thrown from him from Carson Wentz, a guy who plays underneath very well. That's very versatile. He was a second-round pick in 2019, and he signed with the Giants, as I mentioned, last season. Only played 12 games and started 3 of them for the Giants a year ago, 30 receptions for 104 yards across the board. That's what his numbers look like, but his best year as a pro definitely came in his final season with the Indianapolis Colts in 2022, 63 receptions for 623 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he's going to provide a lot of depth for us with special teams. He'll probably most likely be a guy who come in and kind of switch things up for us and allow us to do the things we need in special teams on a return game. I think he can help us out there. And I also think he can give us a lot of depth and push some of the guys for that WR3, WR4 spot. So I'm looking for him to go ahead and take that over. And that's going to be it for the Eagles news. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and grade the NFC Nawf. That's it, the Nawf. Like I said before, I love saying that. That's what the name is. That's what we're going to keep it as. And we're going to start with the Chicago Bears. I'm going to give the Bears an A grade, not necessarily because of the things that have happened surrounding Justin Fields. I think that what they have done so far is really secure the future of their team, right, when it comes to the quarterback position, which they have struck out on more times than they have succeeded. And I think this is going to be huge for them. The depth pieces that they're going to be bringing on and the skill position players they're going to be bringing on to boost up the offense. We talk about the skill positions. We're going to lead it, obviously, with none other than our former running back, DeAndre Swift, who went ahead and signed for 3 years for $24.5 million. 15 of it is guaranteed. What they're going to get out of him is an absolute stud at the position. A guy who's going to come in and not only secure that running back spot, but give them the versatility that they lacked in the passing game from the other runners. Last year, from a year ago, they had Donta Foreman. They went ahead also and had Khalil Herbert, who was a great change of pace back, leading the way out of that running back committee. And then we saw the emergence of Roshan Johnson, who was in and out of the lineup due to injuries and stuff like that. But I think with Swift, they get a guy who is solid coming off his best season as a pro, formerly in Philadelphia. I think this is going to be a real, real good thing for them. It's just considerable amount of money for a running back, a position that's not really that respected anymore in this NFL that we're now enjoying in the era that we're in. But he still makes the plays where needed. And I think that he's going to definitely add a much needed boost to that backfield. So DeAndre Swift for sure definitely gets the pen stroke, if you will, in terms of the grading. Jalen Johnson re-signs with a 4-year deal. I think that's really good for them because they needed to make sure on the back end that they were secure moving forward. They also had a younger corner that they had drafted just a season before. And I think he's going to be continuing to ascend and continuing to grow in his position. And you think about the other players so far that he went and got Ryan Poles, went and traded from the Washington Commanders and brought Montez Sweat into the fold. And then they also signed Tremaine Edmonds and our former linebacker in TJ Edwards. So now this is going to be a huge opportunity for Chicago to kind of push the envelope and secure it, whether it be, again, Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. We do not know, but all the consensus, it seems to be going to be Caleb Williams. We'll go over his pro day in another episode, as well as the other quarterbacks coming into the league. But right now, we're going to stay on the Chicago Bears. I also like what they did with Gerald Everett, a veteran, a guy who's been around the league, played for a couple of teams now with the Rams and formerly of the Los Angeles Chargers a year ago, comes in to support Cole Kmet, who's definitely the number one guy. They also went ahead and signed Kevin Byard, formerly of the Philadelphia Eagles, again, a guy who was traded away in the middle of the season from the Tennessee Titans, came over and was not able to reproduce the success that he had playing on the back end for the Titans for us, that we had to move on. And again, went ahead and signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So I think this is really, really, really a good situation for the Chicago Bears. They get the highest rating right now for me, right behind, not that far behind, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions get an A-. And I don't say that with hate. I say that with actually a lot of love, because I loved what the Detroit Lions did, especially on the defensive line, when they went ahead and signed a DJ Reader, one of the top defensive tackles in all of the NFL last year. This guy is going to definitely plug a hole that they have been missing for a while. And they were very close to getting to that NFC Championship game. And they were one game away from going to the Super Bowl, the Detroit Lions were. And where they struggled the most was on the interior line. And DJ Reader definitely comes in, fills a position of need. And I think this is a player that can definitely push the envelope. You talk about Aiden Hutchinson coming off the edge. And this is going to be helping them with Aleem. And you're going to pair him up with Aleem McNeil on the inside. They're going to still need some more depth there in the middle of the field, as well as the pass rush. But I'm loving what the Detroit Lions are doing. The reason why, again, I'm giving them a A- is because a lot of their offensive linemen have left and went on to sign deals elsewhere. We talk about Gabe Jackson, one of those guys who've been around for a while with the Detroit Lions. Losing him definitely hurt, as well as Jonah Jackson. That definitely hurt as well. So now when you take a look at the consistency there on the offensive line, my question is, how long is it going to take for those 5 guys to gel and get this thing going, right? So again, the Detroit Lions, I believe that they have a very high grade here earlier in the first wave of free agency, just before the draft. They were able to fill the hole with DJ Reader. I think probably their biggest signing in the free agency pool right now so far. I've given them a lot of credit for this signing as well, re-signing Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell to extensions. This is going to be really good for this team. That means the ownership believes in the vision. Both of these men, they've worked their tails off, their manner of speaking, to get the team up to where they are right now. So no bigger signing than the head coach and, of course, his partner and the general manager and DJ Reader. When you talk about filling holes right there on the defense, that's pretty much what the biggest holes were on the defensive side of football. But I believe that the Lions are doing everything they can to continue on and bring in more guys. Amik Robinson from Las Vegas, a true dog at the cornerback position. And they also went ahead and got Carlton Davis III from Tampa Bay, a veteran, a Super Bowl winning veteran, that is, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to kind of continue to shore up the back end of the secondary. Again, a position of concern for the Lions. We talk about how their season went up and down. Aaron Glenn did the best he could as defensive coordinator with the players he had. And I think he's going to continue to do that as long as he can stay there long term and continue to grow with the team. But so far, I love what the Lions are doing. Up next, the Green Bay Packers. I give them a B+. A B+. This is a little bit of shade towards them because I'm a huge fan of Aaron Jones, and I thought Aaron Jones did a tremendous job towards the back end of the season. You know that he was a huge factor in them upsetting the Dallas Cowboys, as the Cowboys could not stop the run. Aaron Jones had a field day with them, and they were just a play away from beating the San Francisco 49ers before they went to the NFC Championship game and played against the Detroit Lions. And you saw what he was able to do there as well in that game. So walking away from a guy who is who's a Pro Bowler, a beloved player by the community, someone who did a lot of community work while he was a player there, it's always tough to see those players let go. And again, I've spoken about this on previous episodes. In an era where it's so hard to retain your homegrown talent, Aaron Jones is one of the good ones. Very, very sad to see him go. Also, Devondre Campbell, linebacker Devondre Campbell, had a bit of divorce with the Green Bay Packers. This is a player who played at a really high level for the Packers for a very long time. Unfortunately, he's not going to be finishing his career with the Packers, and that sucks. You don't like to see that. He was a player that gave his all again. Very involved in the community, a beloved player in the locker room, is someone that the younger players looked up to. But I think that with what they had and the homegrown talent they're growing and moving on from defensive coordinator Joe Barry, it just the writing was on the wall for Campbell. But he was told one thing from management and then got dealt with in a different way from management. When he was let go, did not even get a phone call from GM Brian Gutenhurst, and that kind of like made him feel some type of ways. I remember seeing something on social media in regards to Devondre Campbell's release, and I did not like that at all. Do love the moves that they did, though. Just to fill up Aaron Jones, moving on. They went ahead and signed Josh Jacobs, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders, to a huge deal. Now, this was something that I was not expecting. It was a 4-year, $48 million deal. And this is numbers that running backs do not get nowadays. But he's a younger player, only 26 years old, still has a lot of burn left. I know about the declining in the yards per carry on every touch, but I also believe that Raiders did not have a very good offensive line last year. You saw what happened with Josh McDaniels getting fired during the middle of the season, and then ultimately that job ending up to getting to Antonio Pierce, who became the head coach after huge support from the fan base and the players alike. But Josh Jacobs still has a lot of value. He's a player that could do a lot out of the backfield, and he could definitely help when it comes to the pass protection for Jordan Love, who is also an ascending player and a player who's going to continue to ride the wave of ascension, if you will. Green Bay Packers and their free agent signings, they went ahead and re-signed their kickoff returner Keyshawn Nixon, who's also a corner, and he was a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro and Pro Bowler a year ago. They went ahead and plucked Xavier McKinney from the Giants. They gave him a 4-year, $68 million deal. I think 40 of it is guaranteed. But this also is the writing on the wall for Darnell Savage. I think it is. When you take a look at what's going on with McKinney, he's coming in to take over the job, at least to be the leader up there in the back end on the safety position. So I think this is a really huge move for them. They're getting younger at the position, but they're also showing their players that they're going to invest in stars. They're going to invest in quality play. And this is what I love about the Packers. They've always been a consistent franchise. When you think about some of the great franchises in the NFL, the Packers are definitely one of them. They've always done right when it comes to the fan base, when it comes to the players. And I think that Keyshawn Nixon, a guy who's worked extremely hard to not only be on the roster, but continue to play at a high level in the NFL. And this is a really good re-signing for them. And I think that depth will continue to rise. And finally, the Minnesota Vikings, they get a C+ from me. And why I say that is because I feel like the Vikings didn't fight to keep Kirk Cousins. And I'm a little bit disappointed in that because he was only supposed to be scheduled to be a free agent on the Wednesday, March 15th, which is when free agency periods really started. Everything prior to that was all just verbal agreements. You cannot sign any contracts until the free agency period begins. The legal tampering window was at the top of that week, which was on the Monday, the 13th of March 13th. And now when you take a look at everything that has transpired, losing Kirk Cousins, they also made a huge trade to get 2 first-round picks. Now, I'm curious to see if they package these picks to perhaps move up in the draft, go and get a quarterback of the future. They signed Sam Darnold to a 1-year deal. I'm sure that Justin Jefferson can't be happy about that. Sam Darnold has been around the league, but let's not forget, he was a number 1 pick not too long ago when he played for the New York Jets. His career didn't go the way it was supposed to go, but he's still getting big money, a 1-year, $10 million deal. We'll see if Kevin O'Connell can kind of bring that out of him, right? So he's known to develop quarterbacks. He did wonders for Kirk Cousins' career after Mike Zimmer left, was no longer the head coach. And I really believe that this is a move that can kind of bridge it until they find their guy of the future. So he's a bridge quarterback, in my opinion. But we'd never know, right? Look at Baker Mayfield from a year ago. The Browns gave up on him. The Panthers gave up on him. He went ahead and he signed with the Los Angeles Rams in the middle of the year when Matthew Stafford went down, and we saw what Sean McVay was able to do with him in the 3 games that he started, and he parlayed that into a starter's role with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and played extremely well for the Bucs, which rewarded him with a $100 million deal. 51 of it is guaranteed. Again, we'll be taking a look at the NFC South later on in another episode. But sticking to the Minnesota Vikings, I believe their biggest hole right now is definitely at the quarterback position because of the uncertainties of Sam Darnold. He has never really performed at a high level, and in the stops that he's made, when you talk about him in Carolina, how it didn't end well for him there. Last season with the San Francisco 49ers, he backed up Brock Purdy. Did a good job when he was asked to come in, but I still believe that they could improve at the position, maybe even get a guy of the future, because we know Nick Mullins is not the guy, and Jaron Hall is a very low pick. We'll see how things shake out with him, but I like what I'm seeing right now already from the Minnesota Vikings when they went ahead and they traded and got 2 picks in the first round. Hopefully they can package that up. And I just mentioned Aaron Jones. Well, Aaron Jones signed a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Vikings after being released from the Green Bay Packers. It's a 1-year deal, again, worth $7 million. I believe if he plays well, they go ahead and extend him because they don't have a running back outside of Ty Chandler. Aaron Jones would definitely come in and challenge for the starter's position in front of Ty Chandler. No, Alexander Madison has been released from the roster. The Vikings also lost Danielle Hunter, but they went ahead and signed Jonathan Grenard, who actually switched his places because Jonathan Grenard was at the Houston Texans, and guess who signed with the Houston Texans? Danielle Hunter, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. So this was a one-off one. There was not a trade. The players signed. They were free agents. They signed with who they wanted to do, and it just happened to be by coincidence that both teams were able to fill a hole and got what they needed. Andy Van Ginkel, formerly of the Miami Dolphins, who played under Vic Fangio with Miami a year ago. A lot of people had him tied to the Philadelphia Eagles because, again, Vic Fangio coached him up the season ago with the Minnesota Vikings, but no, Van Ginkel ends up signing with the Vikings. So he went ahead and signed a 2-year deal worth $20 million. They also got Blake Cashman, formerly of the Houston Texans, and he agreed on a 3-year deal. So they continue to address the defensive side of the football Minnesota is, and Jahad Ward as well, another quality linebacker who's going to come in and definitely help shore up the defensive side of the football. A lot of depth pieces on the defense side of the football. I want to see what they do at the quarterback position, how they address it. Will they go ahead and draft a rookie, or are they kind of just waiting around to see what happens before camp starts? I think Minnesota, out of all the teams in this division, definitely gets the lowest grade, definitely for me at least. And there's a lot of room for improvement there. But I trust what they are doing over there in Minnesota. And the front office has done wonders with the cap situations that they continuously be under. Justin Jefferson's contract is looming. We'll see if they're able to get a quarterback of the future to pair him up with. Because like I said, I doubt that he's excited about Sam Darnold being the starting quarterback next year when you go from Kirk Cousins, to Sam Darnold in under a year. What are you going to think? What are you going to wonder, right? So Justin Jefferson, again, needing our quarterback. Let's see if the Minnesota Vikings go ahead and honor that. News and what's good? What's good? L'Jarius Sneed gets traded from the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs, and goes over to the Tennessee Titans. Man, I don't know what's going on in the NFL right now, but top-tier talent just seems to be being given away. You talked about Justin Fields basically being given away for a couple nickels and a bag of socks to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The pick that they got is not even for this season. L'Jarius Sneed in the same exact situation. The Titans got a 5th-round pick, sent it over to the Chiefs for the 2025 NFL draft, and they ended up swapping 7th-round picks. Now, when I went ahead and consulted with my broadcast colleague, Brother Brian, he's speaking to me specifically from the front office, talking to me about the teams trying to stay under the cap because they can't pay the money out, and then being unable to pay other free agents and the rookies that they plan on drafting. So it kind of hurts to see him go. But the Chiefs have done tremendous with developing talent. When you look at how well Trent McDuffie played in the Super Bowl, he's definitely going to be vying for one of those starting cornerback spots. That's why they drafted him out of Washington, to make sure that he got an opportunity to play long-term in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. And I think right now, when we talk about the Tennessee Titans, they're shoring up on the back end as well. They already have a lot of good play. We'll see how they do and how they fare later on in these podcast episodes. As I said, I'm going to be covering all of the divisions. But L'Jarius Sneed is no longer with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was traded to the Tennessee Titans for a 5th-round pick in the 2025 NFL draft, and a swapping of 7th-round picks between the Chiefs and the Tennessee Titans. Was not expecting that at all. But here we are, live and direct. Chiefs get Sneed, and the Chiefs have to wait and see how Trent McDuffie performs. Quick shout-outs before I sign out. I want to give a huge shout-out to my guy, David Macanzo, who just declared and said that he's going to be going to the United States to pursue his education. Before I dive into that, I want to say this. Young to maybe take it to the NCAA, maybe take it to the States and finish their high school and try to continue to pursue their dreams. Understand that these opportunities are not by accident. You have to bust your ass in the classroom. Make sure that you have the grading, because your level of play can be super high and elite, but if your grades are trash, you're not going to get those looks. I promise you. Coaches are just as interested in how good of a student you are than how good of a football player you are, because they don't want to worry about if you're getting your schoolwork done, so they can make sure that you can play on those Saturdays, right? Because that's important. Once you're able to get into to the NCAA, it gets harder. The older you get, the higher the ladder you climb, the harder it gets. So just understand this. If you're chasing that dream, if you're chasing wanting to get into the U.S. or any school, it doesn't even necessarily have to be in the U.S. It could be right here in Canada, wherever. You got to make sure that you're disciplined and you understand the work that it takes to get up to that level. So keep your nose in your books, stay in the weight room, continue to work on your craft, consult with coaches, lean on your support system, and just get to where you're trying to go. David Macanzo is a perfect example of what I'm saying. I've seen firsthand how hard he's worked. And I mentioned in my last podcast, Jaden Arenas Michelle, Caden Dewey, as well as Jamin Theodore. They have a great supporting staff, great supporting cast, their family. They lean on them. Their family has always supported them throughout their journey, and they're excellent students in the classroom. They do the work that's required for them to get the notice. Your film can stand out. It can have all the highlights. It can have all the goods. But if your grades are not in order, it's going to be very hard for you to get into a top school. You got to take care of the schooling, and I'm sure any athlete that's already on the other side or aspiring to go on the other side will tell you the same. Recruiters, coaches, and everyone's the likes. They want to know, how good of a student are you? Because the responsibilities that you have to take care of are yours and yours alone. And once you're on that island by yourself, you got to stay locked in on the goal. Ultimately, it's for you to get as far as you can go. And you can't play football forever. So make sure your nose stays in your books and lock in the mentality. All right? This has been Htheman. Y'all are tuned in to Real Talk Sports. We'll check in next time. I signed in, and now I'm signing out. Peace and love always. Peace.